Ollie with Orthopedic Opinions, and this is Orthopedic Opinions. Today's topic is Terence Blanchard's Fire Shut Up in My Bones, an opera that I saw at the Met Opera in New York City. We're going to touch on a few points today. Number one being how the work being an opera impacted the storytelling. Coming at this question from an opinionated perspective, it felt very foreign. Immediately after watching the opera, I wanted to watch it again with my newly trained eye. The combination of visual elements such as the far staging and necessity to read subtitles, due to the fact that the specific dialect that the opera singers were hard to understand, was a lot. Okay. Without an eye that was at all experienced in viewing this particular art form, I had an unclear idea of where to prioritize my focus, and I feel it slightly impacted negatively the translation of the overall plot for me. Although it was a difficult experience, it did not hinder my ability to properly experience and analyze this work. Here are some different design elements that contributed to this experience. First is staging. The staging was very far. The props were minimal in comparison to other theatrically staged works I've seen, and the costumes were very realistic and really sold the storyline visually in contrast to the minimalistic staging that ultimately pulled me out of the intimacy of a theatrical experience. And the singing was my favorite thing about the experience. It was an artistic medium that I'm not used to seeing, not only in the specific diction that was being used, but the main spotlighted medium for storytelling. I really enjoyed the hints of jazz that were thrown into it. Terence Blanchard sure did fuse opera and jazz smoothly and cohesively. The next thing we're going to talk about is the setting of the work. I didn't recognize the relevance of the work being set in the South in relation to the plot in a significant way until reading an article on ynycstudios.org titled Blanchard's Fire Shut Up in My Bones, A Boy of Peculiar Grace, a reference to a musical piece in the work. The article says, and I quote, "The South was not the place to be questioning one's sexual identity as a black man in the 1970s and 80s, and although nowhere was particularly the place for a black man to be questioning his sexual identity in the 70s and 80s, it is important to recognize the societal norms during the specific time and place in relation to the presumed trauma that is referenced throughout the work and is recognized as an important component of this perspective of black gay men that is being portrayed." In the synopsis of Act 3 on the metroopera.org, it states Charles is one of several fraternity pledges being hazed at his college. Charles stoically takes each indignity in stride. Pain is nothing new for him. This validated the significance of the presence of this intense trauma, which is specifically named as the sexual abuse Charles endured through his older cousin. Although I believe this is an important component to the storytelling of the specific journey such as this one, there is something inherently off-putting about an artistic representation of black pain. I believe art is a very powerful medium of storytelling, and sometimes those messages are hard to digest through mediums of artistic expression. It often distracts me from the overall message. Luckily, Jasmine Wilson asked this question to the filmmaker and libertist Cassie Lemons for an article for PBS.org called Behind the Scenes of Fire Shut Up in My Bones with Cassie Lemons. Jasmine asked,
"What do you hope audience watching Fire Shut Up in My Bones will take away?"
Cassie says, quoted, "It's the same with movies in a way. Sometimes things can be so specific they're universal. Because you are with the protagonist and the antagonist and the characters, you realize that we're all very human. We have hopes and dreams, and we love our families, and we try and we fail. And all the things that make us human, I hope an audience relates to it. Billy reminds me of my grandmother. Or I can relate to that kind of loneliness, or I can relate to being misunderstood or trying to get people to hear me. You're always to me with art trying to close the gap and remind people of our shared humanity, the things that make us similar." And My personal opinion is I can get behind the portrayal of all of these things in mainstream media, but I fear, according to my personal taste, it causes specific messages of things like humanity, for example, to get lost. I don't know, maybe that's something of the viewer's responsibility to explore, but I'm thankful for my opera experience for bringing it to my attention. Thank you for watching Orthopedic Opinions with Ollie with Orthopedic Opinions. Good night.